and change is hard, even if it's good change. You know, like, even if you get a new job, it's still scary and hard, even if it's great. And if you move, like moving is a trauma in the DSM, right? Even if you're moving for a good reason.
Yeah.
So
speak on it.
You know, like good changes is still hard and it's still a trauma. So we are all sort of collectively, I hope, choosing to engage in a different kind of vulnerability and trauma to change the way we do a lot of stuff. But yeah, we have to change, you name it, we have to change it.
Right. Everything is on the table to change, right? I love that you said you wake up thinking, what am I wrong about? I've not ever heard anyone say that. And I love that you said that because, you know, we always think, I tell people, I'm right 99% of the time. Like, what's wrong? But there are things that I'm probably wrong about, right? And so that's whole vulnerability to say you're wrong about something.
Well, I look for it. I'm not always great at it, you know, but I do look for it because the people that I find the most difficult to interact with are people who really struggle with being wrong. And, you know, so that's why I'm like, the safest place for me is to constantly remind myself that there are things I am deeply wrong about from ignorance or from miseducation. You know, like I'm not judging myself for not knowing something or being wrong about it. I just like to keep, they agree. My pups agree. I just like to, you know, keep my mind open to the fact that that's true. And also I'm a stubborn person. So it takes me extra. So if I don't start thinking about it when I wake up, I'm not going to get there.
Hey, listen when I tell you, I appreciate your transparency so much because I know I'm a stubborn person and, you know, I try to be aware of that and, you know, moving accordingly. And when you spoke about certain traumas, even when you're moving for a good reason.
Yeah.
The experiences and the trauma that I experienced going to Tulsa, although it was for a good experience. Yeah. I mean, it almost was to my detriment. You know, even in the midst of the pandemic and, you know, even right now with everything that's going on in Kentucky, you know, with the tornadoes, the devastation. So, you know, shout out to Mayfield, you know, when this airs, it may be after the fact, but at the same time, the trauma is still there. So, you know, I'm trying to be a resource ongoing because, you know, even past the initial event, there's residue of trauma that still remains. And if that's unaddressed, it's just going to remain. So, you know, when you talk about, you know, like stubbornness, you know, revealing about yourself and being open about yourself, I think that's the only way that you can change is once you own up to what you need to change. So, you know, as Dana said, you know, I haven't taken their perspective, but, you know, when I start the day, I'm just like, all right, so what do I need to do today that's part of my purpose or what I'm here for? But I think adding that would just, you know, bring a little bit better results. So I appreciate you for that. How do you think that ideology could help not only the U.S., but Kentucky, like owning up to certain things that haven't been owned up to before in the past or present?
We have to. I mean, well, it would, if we're not much more honest about our history, which means you have to admit that a lot of what you learned in school is wrong because you were taught a very whitewashed history. I mean, my son's homework assignment over the weekend, I wasn't doing it. My husband was doing it with him because he's a teacher and also I needed a break. But my husband came out of there and was like, I cannot believe at his hippy dippy lefty Montessori school, they gave him this reading assignment where, you know, their school is based on peace and justice and community. They have a weekly community class about how important community is and what your role is in community. I mean, it's like a beautiful school.
Yeah.
And yet he had this assignment that had 2 sections in it about, it sort of positively framed a question around how the world had changed after the triangular trade of, you know, enslaving people.
Triangular trade. That's what we're calling that now. That's what we're calling it now, triangular trade.
And I was we were both like, we told him, you do not have to read this. We do not want you to read this. We're not going to do this. We're going to talk about why you're not going to. But I was like, this is 2021. And I hoped, of course we contacted the teacher, but I hope that the teacher like hadn't really read it and just pulled it from something or read a description. I hope. But like even that, like think about, I took a quiz that Dr. Ricky Jones made for Joe Girth, and half of the answers I knew, I learned from my husband who teaches American history. I learned from him in the last few years. I did not learn them in elementary school, middle school, high school, or college. And I learned an incredibly wrong description of so many things in our culture and so many things, especially about the post-Civil War, America. Like, I remember, I should not have been, this is not true, but I was an adult visiting DC and learned about all of the members of Congress who were Black men from Mississippi and how Mississippi had this amazing Black delegation in Congress. And then, of course, through terrorism and through legalizing terrorism against Black people, that changed. And but I should have known that long before. And so I forgive myself for not knowing it. But
here's the thing. You didn't know it, neither did we. So,
right.
And there's why? Well, it goes back to what you said about white supremacy being embedded in our everything. And so I think we can't continue to have the excuse that we don't know. The information's out there. We just be open and willing to accept it and get it, right? So we know the whole story.
Yeah. Dana, have you ever listened to the You're Wrong About podcast?
No, but you're bringing out kind of little gems for me today.
Right. You will not be disappointed. And the number one thing about that podcast, which I'm like, the number one thing about it is they don't add anything new in that wasn't publicly available at the time. Mm-hmm. So they're telling you how wrong we all were about this, which, trust me, we're all really wrong. Because, but they are only explaining it through what was available at the time. Because the first time I listened to it, I was like, well, yeah, but I heard this about this. And then they're like, yeah, you did. But also this was available and you missed it. You're right.
Okay, so, I'll take a look at that. Love it.
Like, while you were speaking about this, and also, listening to both, with the Juneteenth last year, or this year, how many years has it been and people didn't know about it? I didn't learn about Juneteenth until I lived in Texas. And I was like, okay, I know about 8th of August because Western Kentucky, that's when the information said it reached there. And that's all I knew, but I didn't know about Juneteenth. And then you have not only this year when they finally recognized as a federal holiday, we're not talking about state, federal, this is also around the same time that they also enter things in legislation to where certain things of history, they may not or shouldn't be taught in school. So once again, the information may be there, but is it really being sourced out? Or is it really being discussed? Is it really being accepted?
Nothing ever was handed, all about respect, never about ego. Wish I could have retired a long time ago and disappeared way beyond the trees. But my homies kept influencing me, said they needed to hear my lyrics, like my flow, cause they felt my spirit. Plus the people needed to hear it, a conversation with conscientious lyrics.